I'm Kapler. I'm a network planning associate. I have personally been using it for almost a couple years. Our company implemented it about 5 or 6 years ago, so most of that time was spent getting it set up, but we've really been using it more within the last 2 or 3 years now, so it's still pretty new to us at the moment. Yeah, we're actually in the process of using this to replace our current web proxies. We use both side by side at the moment. The plan in the future is to eventually get those replaced with Umbrella so that we can have just a overall overarching proxy, either that's based in the cloud or whatever we need. But this currently is our most convenient way of replacing web proxies across all of our locations at our company. Well, one of the coolest features for me, at least, is to be able to type in a website and have it basically give an overall summary of how safe that website appears. Part of it is just so that we can investigate, and if there's any sort of confusion between our cyber team and us, we can look further into that site and dive more into that risk score that Umbrella gives us, so that we can just analyze and make sure that we're unblocking safe sites and blocking sites that we deem that could be harmful, I guess, for our employees. It's definitely made it more centralized. So our current setup is that we have proxies, either physical or virtual, all throughout our different locations. And so each location has its own proxy at the moment. What's nice about Umbrella is that we can just go in to the site and see all of our locations in one place, be able to look at all of our computers, users, everything. It's not divided into separate proxies that we have to go into and figure out which person's using which proxy. Umbrella lets us just see everybody at once, which is really handy for us, and we don't have to spend too much time kind of messing around with figuring out who's where and which location needs this change and which location, basically just making changes throughout every location at once rather than one at a time with those proxies that we currently use. In terms of feeling supported, they have the ability to submit a request to us very easily. So when they get blocked from site, it's not just one page saying you're not allowed here. They have the ability to submit a request to us so that we can look further into that site. I think that makes our employees feel more included in the process of helping the company access the sites that it needs to use, and also us communicating with those employees why a site might be blocked or a site that needs to be blocked based on, I guess, what they find and what they're doing for their job. But I think the important thing is that they're able to talk to us in case there's a site that they think that they need to access, and helps them feel included in the entire process. So the past couple years, it especially was important because now we can't use those proxies if people aren't on site. Because the way our network was set up was that we had it filtering through the firewall, and the firewall was taking certain subnets and filtering those through the proxy. But obviously, when people work from home, we had to get a VPN connection set up. Before COVID, we did not have a work from home solution at the time. So everybody had to be in the office. Obviously, that all changed very quickly, and Umbrella became a much bigger priority for us because that was our main replacement for those proxies at the time. So we had to expedite the process of setting it up, but what was nice about Umbrella is that it was so user-friendly, it was so easy to set up on our end that it didn't take as much time as we thought it would. It just simplified the entire process throughout the couple years that we especially needed it. But what's cool about that is now it's a permanent part of our network, so that now, thanks to the last couple years, we just use it all the time now. It wasn't just a temporary solution for hybrid work or anything. Now we use it for both. We have the ability to do hybrid work, but we also have the ability to use it for our employees on site now at the moment as well. Yeah, I would say so. We still, of course, like I mentioned earlier, we still use those old WSAs, but in the long run, our plan is to get those replaced with Umbrella. And also, like I had mentioned earlier, so we have locations in Japan, Korea, China. So it's a little bit more difficult to go through one proxy for all those, especially because it's a bit slower. What's nice is Umbrella being in the cloud is we can just go into the site, see everything from the management console in that page. Nothing is slow, nothing's hosted by us, so that we don't have to worry about network issues or management issues. Everything is just laid out right in front of us from the Umbrella dashboard on the internet in the cloud, and that makes it super helpful for us to just manage all that from one spot across all of our locations across the world. It's especially useful. We aren't a very big team, so that's the main thing. Going through filtering web traffic or blocking sites or unblocking sites, whatever we need to do, it can be a bit tedious, especially when we have all these different locations and we would have to go into each location specifically to perform these tasks. Umbrella, being one pane and being all-encompassing, allows us to just quickly go in, make a change, and it applies to either every location if we wanted to, or we can have policies in place that only applies to certain users or certain computers, and that makes it super useful for us because we're not screwing around with, jumping into all these different locations and manually doing each and every one individually. So yeah, it is extremely helpful for us, and it improves efficiency exponentially. Obviously, it depends on the situation. I think with Umbrella, it's a bit easier, for sure. There are some times where Umbrella on their side is having an issue, and we're notified of that issue. But in that case, there isn't really much on our side that we can do. So to that extent, though, I think the pros outweigh the cons, where, it's pretty rare when Umbrella is having a problem. But the way that our network is set up is that we can reroute traffic pretty quickly using our other Cisco devices. So it's not usually a big issue for us. I would say that we have less problems with Umbrella than we do with our physical WSA's proxies that we currently use, because that is something that we would have to troubleshoot on our end, and we're not always there on site to be able to do it. So then we have to go through someone else who's over there, and they have to console us in, and then we have to troubleshoot whatever is going on over there. With Umbrella, it's nice to be able to just have them tell us what's going on so that we're aware of the situation. And if there were any problems, then we'd know that what the issue was and how we could work around it to that extent. So I think that makes it a bit simpler for us in that sense. Network connectivity isn't really a huge issue for us with Umbrella specifically. Our use case mainly is just for the blocking internet traffic, making groups. So we have social media groups where we allow certain computers and places to have access to certain social media sites that we wouldn't normally do. And to that extent, we have other sites being blocked depending on their use case. So that's mainly our function with Umbrella. I think internet connectivity is usually not a huge issue regarding Umbrella with us, but if it ever is, like I said, it's nice that they communicate the issue to us so that we can work around it. Most of it's automatic, so we don't really have to worry about it too much. Umbrella will just block something if it detects it as malware. So that is a super convenient feature for us that we don't have to manually review every single site. If we do have to review a site, it's nice to have that investigative tool, so we put in the URL and it gives us a risk score depending on how dangerous that site might be. So that's super helpful for us to basically analyze that site, take a look at it, and make a decision on whether we need to block it or if it can be unblocked. Obviously, every situation is different, but Umbrella makes that summary page very convenient for us, and it just allows us to make decisions much faster and more efficiently. Our cyber team is a bit different from our network team. We have a separate team for that, but it's nice because they also use Umbrella for a lot of that. Depending on what the site is, like I said, we use the investigative tool for the risk score, but it also comes with a few other tools, and part of that is just so that they can assess what's safe and what's not safe and what might be detected as malware. Obviously, they have other tools for that as well. So Umbrella is just one cog in the big system, but it definitely allows for easier communication between our teams because we both use it and we can both understand it. It's user-friendly enough so that we can make decisions with them based on what Umbrella tells us and how we can interpret that information depending on, obviously, the site, the situation, the risk score, everything. mean, we have a lot of employees, so I mean, we have a few tens of thousands. So we get probably hundreds every day. I wouldn't be able to give an exact number on how many exactly are blocked. The main ones we look at are the ones that people request for us to specifically look at because they might not think that something was supposed to be blocked or that something's not working properly, so that we can go in and investigate that. But there are probably hundreds to thousands of blocks per day on the sites just across all of our locations. That automation allows us to relax a little bit easier and know that our network is much safer with Umbrella on it than it is off. It just allows the automatic side of it is basically saving our jobs, pretty much. So that really helps, and we're able to look at anything. And like I said, the main things we look at are sites that have been blocked and somebody wants unblocked. Then we go in a little bit more in depth, give it to the cyber team, they take a look at it, all that stuff. But yeah, overall as a program, I would say that it has saved us a ton of time and stress of not having to worry about malware or viruses or anything, anything malicious. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, it's one cog in the big system that we have of our solutions for cybersecurity. We also use products like AMP. We have certain firewalls that also block certain things, just the way they're configured. But overall Umbrella, in terms of if we're talking about users on the internet using sites or accessing different websites, I would say it's a big help in determining what exactly they need. We can go into Umbrella and help them understand why something might be blocked, or if they need to get into something, we can make certain policies within Umbrella. Like I said, it's obviously only just one tool out of the many that we have, so these configurations are pretty involved, and even I don't know how they all work. It's divided amongst our team. But for cybersecurity in general, it's great. It simplifies it. It's very useful, and like I said, the automation with it's useful in terms of the automation of how it blocks everything and how all that stuff is interconnected. I would say that it is a lifesaver for us. I think in my experience with the Umbrella support, sometimes the response times take a bit more time than we would like. Obviously, it depends on how they're contacted, but usually when I contact them via phone, like the support team is great. They help me out with everything, but sometimes if you go through like email or something, it can take quite a while to get a response. And obviously if it's through email, the issue's probably not as pressing as it would be through a phone call, but I think the response times could be a little bit better depending on the way that they're contacted. So email, I usually just avoid. I usually just call them now, but yeah, I would say so, because it has, like I said, I mentioned at the beginning, but we're trying to use this to replace, or the plan is to replace those physical proxies that we have. So I would say in terms of, return on investment, getting rid of those across each location, and just in terms of the efficiency with time, it's definitely saved us a lot of time and money troubleshooting different issues and securing the network, helping people access what they need to access. Just in terms of time and efficiency, it definitely has return on investment. And trying to replace those physical ones as well, getting rid of those, just having this be the all-encompassing way of filtering traffic and unblocking, of making policies and all that, I would say that, yeah, it definitely saves us a lot of time with the solution that's offered. We've had to deploy connectors across certain locations, but all the locations we have, a domain controller, and that needs to be deployed on those domain controllers throughout all of our different places, basically. So yeah, I've done a couple deployments. Most of it was already deployed by the time I got here. But I would say that if I had to give my experience on how deployment went, it was very easily laid out, very simple. The instructions were super clear. I didn't have any issues with that. Just as more of a newcomer to the entire industry, I would say that this has been much easier than I expected it to be. So Umbrella as a product is very simply laid out, very user-friendly. I couldn't praise it enough for helping me out with my job. And like I said, the support, sometimes it can take a while, but overall, they are super helpful. They make it very easy, and They make you feel like you're not doing anything wrong. Essentially, they're super friendly and make everything super easy for you. Umbrella as a product, just overall, is very, I would say, just very user friendly and very easy to use for me as a newcomer to my company. I'd give it about a 6 or 7, probably. In terms of helpfulness, yeah, they're super helpful. In terms of response times, I think it could be a little bit better. Some issues are more urgent than others, but yeah, if it's an urgent issue, obviously we just call, and sometimes it takes a little bit for them to get back, but yeah, so I would probably rate it a 7 out of 10. I would give it a 9. Yeah, I would say it's super, and like the points I went over earlier, it's really easy to use, and just as somebody who is, I would say I'm pretty familiar with networks and all that and just learning everything, but in terms of just being an inexperienced network manager, I would say that it makes the entire process very painless, very easy, super simple to understand. So in terms of that, I would say in my experience, I'd say a 9 out of 10.